To the demo of my BrainStation Capstone project, Sustainable Steps. My name is Aima Alakhume, and I am a software engineer with full stack development skills and experience. I am dedicated to creating technical solutions that address social challenges. One such social challenge is adopting a sustainable lifestyle. And so the problems faced for this project is that many people find it difficult to adopt a sustainable lifestyle because of the lack of clear guidance. They feel overwhelmed and they believe that their individual actions will make a difference. And so I thought to myself, how might we empower individuals to embrace sustainable living by making it simple, accessible, and rewarding? And thus, Sustainable Steps was born. This is an application, a web application that features personalized goals and a gamified reward system that makes sustainable living fun and engaging, and most importantly, encouraging for the user. Here is a user persona I have. So this is an example of someone who would find this application useful. Her name is Azra. She's 24 years old, making her Gen Z. And so she's grown up in a generation that's very aware of climate change and the daunting nature of it. But unfortunately, this has made her believe that her efforts won't matter because she doesn't think that living sustainably would yield the kind of rewards that she wants it to. So she has the desire, but she's overwhelmed and a little bit cynical about it. And so this application, what this application will do, and we're about to go into live demo, but what this application aims to do is to show the user that there is impact to your behaviors. There is impact to your life. Your lifestyle does have an impact. You may not see it, but it's there, even if it's something small. And so this game aims to show the user a physical, virtual representation of that. So every time the user makes any kind of progress, it's recorded in the application, and we'll go into that shortly. And so this is the landing page, Sustainable Steps. These are the four main components: the waste diary, the garden, Greenbot, and Wastewise. The user journey starts at the waste diary. In the waste diary, the first thing you'll notice is a calendar on this side. So the calendar has all the days of the current month, and every day that the user has logged in a waste item or waste items, that day has a plant badge next to it. So we can see today has a plant badge because the user has logged in a banana peel, paper towels, and a tinfoil container. And to the right side, we see the goals the user has set. They have all these different goals that they've put in, and as time goes on, they get to tick them off. And that's recorded in the system to show that they have actually been making progress, even if it's as defined by themselves. And let's say the user has recycled all the soda cans in the house. So we tick that off and we go here and we type in soda cans. Let's say 6 soda cans. Metal, the category of waste is metal. The action taken, they recycled. They hit enter. And that's populated right here. So anytime the user, even if the user goes to a different day, each day has its own specific waste. If the user goes back, it's still there. And we could take off a few more goals because there's something that I want to demonstrate in the next components, in the garden component. So let's say, yes, they did buy biodegradable trash bags this week and they got a recycling bin. And one thing that I think is very key to this component is that there is no rubric in the application. The application doesn't tell you what goals to set. You decide what goals to set. And so it's very accommodating in that way that the user gets to decide what is feasible and possible for them. They get to decide what their goals are. So it takes out any kind of guilt, any kind of shame, any kind of pressure. And this is something that they can authentically begin to develop in their lives. And so when we go to the garden, this is the garden. It's very static in nature right now. We have different flowers, we have some soil plots. And when we go here, we click on this garden shed. It says we have 3 plants ready to be placed in the garden. And so we can go ahead and click, and we have different plants that would show up in the locations that we clicked on. And so this is what the application looks like right now. This is the gamified portion of the application. And the reason why I wanted to have something like this was so that the user could actually come in and see, oh, this is how, big and beautiful my garden looks right now. This is how many plants I have because I completed this many goals. And to give themselves a pat on the back and to be encouraged to continue to do more because now they've seen that, oh, I maybe before it was very difficult for me to um recycle. Maybe I wouldn't recycle when somebody would tell me to or once in a blue moon. Now I'm recycling every single week and I have this plant and this plant and this plant to show for that. And I think that that's something that's very key in showing people that when we're caring for the planet, it makes the planet more beautiful. I think kind of spinning the narrative and making it less of, oh, if we don't care for the planet, planets will be completely destroyed. And more so, we love these things, we want to preserve these things. And this is a way for us to visualize that, oh, actually, I'm doing these things. And I am, in a sense, preserving something, even if I can't see it in real life. And there's a little information box here I just included just for new users to know what the garden is. And there's something here that says keep an eye out for community garden coming soon. That will be in future versions. I would love to have a personal garden, a community garden. The community garden will be decided, at least right now, think about New York City, per borough, for example. So everyone in your borough who plays the game, you all have different plants that you're placing, that you're earning and making the garden that much more beautiful. In future versions, I would love to have 3D plants and 3D characters walking around and watching the plants. I would love to make it more interactive. I do have a strong interest in game design, and so as time goes on and I become more familiar with the Unity game engine, the plan is to make the game, the garden, the most central part of this application, where it's known primarily for being a game. And I would like to include all those gamified components, all the controls, the characters, the sprites, everything. And so that will be in future versions, so keep an eye out. And then we go to the next page, which is the waste guide. So this waste guide is just to show people what is recyclable, what is not, right? So when you have the waste diary, you can see habits you're forming, you can see what kind of things that you're kind of wasting on a day to day. But it's not enough to just throw anything that's not organic in the recycling bin. Not everything is recyclable. So for example, here we have material plastic. Is plastic recyclable? Yes, it is. You put it in the recycling bin. Here are examples of what plastic would be. But there are exceptions, like black plastic, for example. Black plastic is not recyclable. Many people don't know that because in recycling plants, they use infrared rays to scan items to identify what is plastic. Black plastic absorbs those rays, and so it gets tossed in with landfill items. It doesn't get put in with plastic. The only way it would be recycled is if people are going in manually, hand by hand, picking out what's recyclable and what isn't. But that's not the way it works right now. It's not feasible, considering how much we consume on a daily basis. It's not feasible for people manually by hand to do these things. And so right now our technology is not at a place where it can recycle black plastic. So also things like that, even down to organic waste. You never compost meat, you never compost dairy, you never compost oils, because they can contaminate the compost. So things like that that people may not be privy to, this is just a very high level guide to show them what kind of high level rules to recycling and composting and disposing and things like that. Just waste management in general. And the final component is GreenBot. So GreenBot right now is populated with um, locations of interest in New York City. So this is not a fully functional component yet, and I will demonstrate what I mean by that. So what this aims to do is to show the user different locations of interest. The locations highlighted in green are composting centers, recycling centers, waste management, and basically they represent waste management locations. The blue ones represent educational resources, places people can go to understand what it means to live sustainably, to understand the environment, its needs more clearly, and how they can live more sustainable lives more efficiently. And the yellow ones are locations of interest related to environmental activism. So they're like action associations and climate silence, for example. There's the New York City environmental department, places that people can go to speak up or rally with other people and begin to become more politically active. Because at the end of the day, yes, individual efforts do matter. They do contribute, but what moves the needle most strongly is government action, political action. And so this is for people who have interest in that, who want to get more involved in that way. And that's what this map is for. What I would love to have done in a future version is that the user can drop a pin anywhere on the page and it would automatically populate locations of interest within a 15 or 20-mile radius. Right now, all these locations are locations that I have pulled off of Google Maps. I am using the Google Maps API here because that's how I have this map located. I can tell these locations, and it's a dynamic Google map, but the locations are not populated dynamically. So I need to familiarize myself more with the Google Maps API so that I can understand how the search prompts work And so I can have locations of interest populate dynamically and do not need to be stored like statically locally on the application. And that's a future goal in the future versions. And so that's the application for now. Um, and yes, so that's everything. That's the whole application for now. And going to next steps, I am very thankful for how far this project came. Thinking about the time frame we had about 10 days to work on this project from like beginning to end. So the fact that I was able to get this working end to end for the most part, I'm very thankful for. Next steps. So the very first thing I want to do next is to integrate a secure user authentication system with the JSON web tokens. The reason why I want to do that is, as it stands, anyone who, if I were to deploy this on the online, anyone who uses this application, they would all be like one collective diary, one collective garden, which defeats the purpose of the application. And so as soon as I have that authentication system going up and people can create user profiles and have their own separate diaries and everything else on the site, then I will have it deployed publicly for use. So keep an eye out on that. The other thing I forgot to mention for the garden, I would love to have, and something I really wanted to do in the ideation phase, it was the goal originally, but realistically it didn't quite pan out that way, was to implement a seed to plant progression system where users would earn seeds that grow into plants over time. So with time they'll keep coming back and seeing the plants grow, they would water them, things like that. I think it would also be more encouraging and wonderful if each plant the user received was dependent on the kind of um item that they logged, the kind of goal they met, or the kind of goal they met. So maybe the person, for example, has recycled bottle caps, for example, and that's one of the things that most impacts sea creatures. And maybe then from there they would get an aquatic plant to represent that. And I would also love it if up on hover. Right now on hover nothing happens. On hover I would love if a pop over came up to show the user, oh, you got this plant from this school on this date. And so that helps them remain encouraged because they may be having a hard time dealing with a different goal that they've set for themselves, and they come back and they see, oh, this really difficult goal that I thought I couldn't accomplish 2 months ago I did, and I got this beautiful plant to show for it. And assuming the plant was growing and growing, like, this is how big it is now, this is how like beautiful, how many leaves it has, how many petals, things like that. um like I said, I'd like to add 3D sprites and characters to the garden as well. And adding the community garden feature that would help people connect and share progress and support each other. And I think really emulate the communal aspect of sustainable living, because at the end of the day, all of us are living on this planet together and it's all our responsibilities to take care of it. And I think the last thing that I would like to incorporate in the waste guide, Wastewise, which is the waste guide, is more more articles, tutorials from renowned organizations and like government organizations. So, for example, the New York City government has so many articles, so much helpful content regarding recycling and what's the right bin to put this in and different things like that. And I would love for it to be. I would love to, I'm not sure exactly how I want to incorporate that visually, but I would love to have that included so that it's not just the user taking, the developer's word for it. They can actually check and see this is what this is, and that way it keeps the information up to date, because as technical advancements are made, the way we recycle, the way we handle things is different. There was a time when we couldn't recycle pizza boxes even if they were slightly soiled. Now we can if they're slightly soiled, things like that. And so I would love to include that in the application as well. And that is it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And thank you so much.